Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking the absolutely fascinating biology of how living things actually survive in a chaotic world. We're going to look at how organisms respond to their environments, going all the way from the slow, deliberate chemical dance of plants to the lightning-fast, highly electrical reflexes of human beings. Let's get into it. So think about this incredible question for a second. A plant has absolutely no brain, zero nervous system, right? Yet somehow it knows exactly which way is up, where the sunlight is, and how to track down water. How in the world do brainless plants actually pull that off? And then, on the flip side of that coin, how do complex creatures like us react to touching a hot stove in literally a fraction of a second? To answer all of that, here is our roadmap for This Explainer. We'll be covering responding to the environment, plant hormones and growth, tropisms and plant movements, the human nervous system, the brain and reflexes, and finally, the human endocrine system.
Section 1. Responding to the environment. Let's just quickly lay down the foundational rules of survival for every single living thing on Earth. Okay, before we go any further, we really need to lock in two crucial biological terms. First up is stimuli. These are simply the environmental changes we're reacting to. A sudden flash of light, a sharp drop in temperature, or just physical touch. Second is coordination. Coordination is basically how an organism's various body systems systematically work together to produce a proper reaction to that stimulus. Because, let's face it, without coordination, there is no survival.
And this contrast right here is absolutely core to the whole survival game. Plants and animals solve the problem of their environment in two completely different ways. Plants, as we know, have zero nervous system. They solve their problems slowly, by growing, and they're directed entirely by chemical hormones. Animals, on the other hand, solve problems fast. We have a highly complex nervous system that lets us react through immediate physical movement.
Moving right along to Section 2, plant hormones and growth. Let's take a closer look at those invisible chemicals driving those slow, deliberate plant movements. What's really fascinating here is that plant hormones, or phytohormones, orchestrate absolutely everything a plant does. You've got auxin, which handles cell enlargement and helps the plant respond to light and gravity. Then, gibberellins step in to promote shoot elongation and break seed dormancy. You also have cytokinins pushing for rapid cell division and delaying leaf aging. But, plants also need to know when to stop growing, and that is exactly where abscisic acid comes into play. It actively inhibits growth, closes up the stomata, and deliberately causes flowers and leaves to fall off when the time is just right.
Section 3. Tropisms and plant movements. Let's actually see these chemicals in action and look at how they create physical, directional growth.
Take a look at this classic example of positive phototropism. Notice how that hormone we just talked about, auxin, actively avoids the sun. When light hits one side of a plant stem, the auxin migrates and just pools on the shady side. This high concentration of the hormone actually speeds up cell growth on that dark side, which literally forces the stem to bend over toward the light. It's a brilliant, totally brainless mechanism to maximize solar energy.
So the crucial takeaway here is that a plant always knows its orientation. Even if you plant a seed completely upside down or knock a potted plant right onto its side, gravity dictates its survival through geotropism. The roots are positively geotropic, meaning they are always going to curve and grow down into the earth. The shoots are negatively geotropic, so they'll persistently bend and grow up against gravity to break through the soil.
And then we see this incredible survival tactic called hydrotropism. If a plant is sitting in dry soil and there's water nearby, those roots are not just going to grow straight down. No, they will literally alter their downward path to aggressively chase after a localized source of water. They completely prioritize hydration over taking a straight path down.
Now, notice this non-directional response called thigmonasty in the sensitive mimosa plant. When you physically touch its leaves, an electrical impulse is generated that tells the plant hormone to suddenly drain water from the pad-like swellings at the base of the leaves. Those are called pulvini. The result? An instant loss of firmness that causes a rapid folding action right before your very eyes. It's almost like it's shrinking away from you.
All right, Section 4, the human nervous system. We are officially leaving the slow chemical world of plants and entering the lightning-fast, highly electrical world of human beings. I want you to think of the neuron, or nerve cell, as a highly specialized electrical wire. It's actually the longest cell in the human body, specifically adapted to carry messages over huge distances in a fraction of a second. It's got these short, branching fibers called dendrites to receive the signals, a main cell body, and then this massive, long fiber called the axon.
And that axon is wrapped in an insulating myelin sheath to keep the electrical signal strong and extremely fast. So, let's see how this all builds into an action sequence. First, an energy stimulus, like light or heat, hits a receptor in your sense organs. This energy immediately converts into an electrical impulse. The dendrite picks it up, passes it to the cell body, and boom, it shoots down the axon. But here's the crazy part. Neurons don't actually touch each other. At the microscopic gap between them, which we call a synapse, chemical neurotransmitters are released to carry the signal across. It basically acts as a one-way valve, guaranteeing the message only travels in the exact right direction.
But obviously, all those millions of electrical wires firing simultaneously need a central processing unit to make sense of the signals, right? That brings us to Section 5, the brain and reflexes.
Now, the human brain acts as the absolute highest coordinating center of the body. It's securely protected by your skull and nicely compartmentalized into 3 distinct regions. You've got the forebrain, which houses the cerebrum. This is your main thinking part, handling all the learning, reasoning, and voluntary actions. Then there's the midbrain, dealing with rapid visual and auditory reflexes, and finally, the hindbrain, utilizing the pons, cerebellum, and medulla to maintain your posture, your balance, and absolutely critical involuntary actions like your heartbeat and your breathing.
However, sometimes, waiting for that massive forebrain to process information and make a conscious decision is just way too slow, and that is exactly why we have reflex arcs. These are rapid, automatic, and completely involuntary responses. What's truly brilliant here is that many of these, called spinal reflexes, bypass the brain entirely. The nerve impulse just loops straight through the spinal cord and right back out to a muscle for immediate action. It protects your body from imminent danger, like ripping your hand off a hot stove before your brain even fully registers the pain.
Which brings us to Section 6, the human endocrine system. For our final section, we're shifting from the electrical network back over to a chemical one, but this time right inside the human body. You see, humans don't just rely on electricity. We actually have an endocrine system that pours hormones directly into the bloodstream. We've got the thyroid regulating metabolism with thyroxine, and the pancreas actively controlling blood sugar using insulin. And amazingly, we have these adrenal glands sitting right on top of our kidneys. In a crisis, they literally dump adrenaline directly into our blood, instantly speeding up our heartbeat, jacking up blood pressure, and totally prepping the body for an emergency fight or flight action. And this dual system setup perfectly wraps up our human coordination section. We are a brilliant hybrid, you know? We utilize the extreme speed of the nervous system, transmitting those electrical impulses in fractions of a second for quick bursts of action, but we beautifully combine that with the endocrine system, using chemical messengers in the blood for slower but incredibly powerful and long-lasting changes to our body. As we wrap up this explainer today, I really want you to take a moment and just think about the invisible symphony of electrical sparks and chemical messengers happening inside your own body at this very second. Trillions of cells are coordinating, reacting, and constantly adjusting to keep you alive and thriving. From the slow, deliberate bending of a plant stem to your own lightning-fast reflexes, survival truly is an art form. So ask yourself, what incredible reaction will you have next? Thanks so much for learning with me today.